lesson 13-3 is area of composite figures. So the first thing, of course, you're going to do is you're going to turn on your computer. What you did in class is you're going to watch your video, area of composite figures. Make sure you have your homework written down. And then when you finish watching the con video, I want you to make sure that you write down the information down here that's in color, okay? Alright, so it says a composite figure is made up of two or more shapes. To find the area of a composite figure, you're going to decompose the figure into shapes with areas that you know how to find. Then you want to find the sum of those areas. Okay? And then we've got a figure down here that we're going to look at. Okay? Now, the reason I said I want you to write down the colors is because if you write down the colors, that's pretty much what you need to have in your notes. It says a composite figure is made up of two or more shapes. To find the area of a composite figure, decompose a figure into shapes that you know. Then find the sum of those areas. So here we have a figure. It's not anything that we have a formula for, but if we split this into two different shapes, okay, so if I split it right here, we've got, let's call this rectangle 1, and let's call this rectangle 2, okay? Then you can find the area of this rectangle and then the area of this rectangle, and then you can just add those together, okay? So for this first one, we've got, of course, base, that's 16, times the height. We only want this piece right here, but the whole thing is 12. If the whole thing is 12, if you look here, and we want to take this part out, we're actually taking out 5. So if I have 12 minus 5, that's going to give me the height of this rectangle. So that's going to be 12 minus 5, which is 7 centimeters. So to find the area of rectangle 1, we're going to multiply 16 times 7. And then down here you have it already, base times height, that's going to be 6 times 5. And then you're just going to find the area of that, and then you're going to add those together. Okay? So let's take a look at example 1. Example 1 is to find the area of the composite figure. So we want to find the area of this. Now, I do want to mention that there's not just one way. There's not just one way to, there's not just one way, one way for you to decompose the figure. So you could take, your figure here, and you can split it right here, and you have rectangle 1 and rectangle 2 right here, or you could split it like this, whichever way you'd like to do. I'm going to go ahead and do this way, okay? So let's label our rectangles. Let's call this rectangle 1, and let's call this rectangle 2, okay? So again, the first thing we want to do is write our formulas. So these are rectangles. We know the formula is area is equal to base times height. Now I'm going to call this, rather than calling this rectangle 1 and rectangle 2, I'm going to call it area 1 and area 2, okay? Just so it's easier for me to label my formulas. So here I'm going to call this area 1, okay? And I'm going to do another formula, area 2, still the same formula, base times height. So now we can substitute what we know. So we know that our base for area 1 is 6 3/4. That's our base. So that's going to be 6 3/4. And we want to multiply that times the height. Well, that's one that we have to figure out, okay? So here is what we're looking for. Now, the whole thing is 12, right? But we don't want the whole thing, so that means we need to take this part out. So if you look over here, what is that part equal to? That part is equal to 6 inches, okay? So that means 12 minus 6, that means that my height here is 6 inches. So we're going to multiply this times 6, okay? Now, for the area 2, we've got base, which is 22.5, and we're going to multiply that times the height, which is 6. All right, and now we just have to simplify. Now, I'm going to go ahead and change this mixed number to an improper fraction. So it's 24, 25, 26, 27. That's 27 fourths. And we're going to multiply that times 6. Now, of course, before you multiply, you can simplify. Good. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So now we are allowed to use our calculator. So here we've got 27 times 3. That gives us 81. And 2 times 1 is 2. Okay? So now we can change that back to an improper fraction. A mixed number. So 2 goes into 81 40 times with 1 left over. So that's going to be 40.5 inches. So now we can simplify area 2. So I'm going to again change that to an improper fraction. So that's going to be 44 plus 1. That's 45 halves. And we're going to multiply that times 6. And again, we can simplify before we multiply. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. And now we've got 45 times 3, which is 135. And that's over 1 times 1, so that's just over 1. So we can just write equals 135 inches. Oops, what did I do wrong here? This is area, right? So this is going to be inches squared, and this is going to be inches squared. Be careful. Make sure you label that correctly. All right, so now we have the area of the 2 rectangles, and now to get the total area, and this is how I'm going to label it, area sub t, for total area, we're going to add area 1 plus area 2. This is how I'm going to write my formula, okay? So now we just substitute in, so we have 40.5 plus 135. So that's going to give us the 40 plus 135. That is 175 and a half. And this is going to be inches squared. So this is my final answer. Okay? Now, because you have all this work, I want you to from now on, I want you to circle your final answer. Okay? So this is going to be 175 and a half inches squared. So now I would like for you to take a minute or two to do this one on your own. So we want to find the area of this composite figure. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to split it up. So I'm going to go ahead and do straight across again. I'm going to call this area 1 and call this area 2. Okay? Now, again, they are rectangles. So area 1 is equal to base times height, and area 2 is equal to base times height. So now we can substitute in. So area 1, we've got the length here, and we've got the height here. Okay, so we didn't have to figure anything out there because it was already given to us. Look at that. Okay, so we've got the base, which is 24.5, and we've got the height, which is 17.5. Okay, now can I go ahead and change these to decimals? Are you okay with that? Because it's just a half, so that's 0.5, right? So let's do 24.5 times 17.5. I'm okay with that. And then unless the question asks you to write your answer with a fraction, you'll have to do this with fractions. Okay? So we've got 24.5 times 17.5, so it's 24.5 times 17.5, and that's going to give us 428.75. 428.75. Now, and of course, this is feet squared, okay? Now, if I were to write this in fraction, 0.75, of course, we know is 3/4, okay? So there's some of these decimals that you should know. So now let's do area 2. So area 2, again, you guys, oh, we really lucked out. So let's see here. There's my base, 52, and there's the height, 23. Look at that. We didn't even have to do any finagling. Okay? So here we've got the base is 52, the height is 23. So now we just multiply those, 52 times 23. That's going to give us 1,196. 1,196, and this is feet squared. So now we want to get the total area. So area sub T for total is area 1 plus area 2. So we've got 428.75 plus 1,196. I already have that 1,196 in my calculator. So now I just have to add 428.75. And there's our final answer. So it's 1,624, 1,624 and 75 hundredths feet squared. Okay, and then of course, if they asked you to write your answer in fraction form, that would be 1,624 and 3/4, because we know 0.75 is 3/4 feet squared. All right, example 2 is to find the area of composite figures, but what do you notice here? Not just rectangles anymore, okay? So it says Sadie's garden has the same shape and dimensions as shown. We want to find the area of the garden. Okay, so first thing you want to do is you want to figure out where we're going to split it up. Okay, so I would split it up right here. So we've got a rectangle, so that's area 1. And we have a trapezoid, area 2, okay? So for the rectangle, of course, your area is base times height. Okay, so base times height, this one's pretty simple. Here's the base, and here's the height, okay? So now we just substitute in. So we've got 12.5 for the base times the height, 5. So 12.5 times 5, that gives us 62.5. 62.5, and this is feet squared. And now we have a trapezoid. So here's our formula for our trapezoid. Okay, and this one we have to do some figuring. Okay, so the trapezoid has two bases. Okay, so we've got, you know what, maybe I can use a different color. Let's use orange. So we've got one base here, and we've got one base here. So you can see we already know that this base down here is 4. But this base over here, we don't know what this one is, not without doing any calculations, right? So we can see that the whole thing, if I went all the way across, the whole thing would be 12 and a half, right? But we don't want the whole thing. We only want this part right here. So that means we want to take this part away. And of course, this part, you can see, that's equal to 4. You see that? So this one right here, that's going to be 12 and a half minus 4, which is going to give us 8.5. Okay? So now we have our two bases. Now our height, let's use yellow. Let's use it. So our height is right here. Oops, let me use a different yellow. Our height is right there, okay, for that trapezoid. Now, we don't know what it is, but we do know that the whole thing is 10.7, right? So if we have the whole thing 10.7, but we want to take this top part out, because we only want this part down here, we can take out 5 feet. Does everybody see how that's 5 feet right there? Okay, so this here is going to be, let me go back here, that's going to be 10.7 minus the 5 feet. So 10.7 minus 5 is 5.7, right? 5.7. So now we can substitute in for our trapezoid. Okay, so we've got 1/2 times the height of the trapezoid, which, oops, put this in the wrong place. This is going to be down here. That's the height down there. Okay, so this height of this trapezoid is going to be 5.7. So times 5.7 times the sum of the bases. So the bases are 4 plus 8.5. And now we can just simplify that, okay? So I'm going to simplify using my order of operations. So I'm going to do what's in the parentheses first over here. So 4 plus 8.5, that gives us 12.5. All right, so this is going to be 12.5. And now I can multiply in any order I want. So I'm going to multiply these two decimals together, and then I'm going to divide by 2. So we've got 5.7 times 12.5, and that's going to give us 71.25. So this is 1/2 of 71.25. So half of that, of course, when we take half of something, we just divide by 2, right? So we're going to take this, 71.25, still in my calculator, divide by 2, and that gives us 35.625. So that's 35.625, and that's going to be feet squared. Now, the last step that you have to do is just add those two areas together. Remember, this was area 1, and this was area 2. So, we've got the total area, area sub t, is equal to area 1 plus area 2. So that's going to be 62.5 plus, I'm just put this over here, 35.625. So I already have my 35.625 in my calculator, so I'm going to do plus 62 and a half, and that gives us 98.125. So this is equal to a total of 98.125, and that's feet squared. So that is your final answer. So pause the video, take a minute, and do this example B, example 2B on your own, and then take a look at the solution. All right, so here is my final answer, 84 yards squared. Sorry about that. And this is how we got it. So we split it. I went ahead and I split it right here. I'll split it right here. So here we've got area 1, which is a trapezoid, and we've got area 2, which is a rectangle. The area of a trapezoid is 1/2 times the height times the sum of the bases, and the area of a rectangle is just base times height. So with the trapezoid, we had to do some calculating to get some of the dimensions. So we have 1/2 times the height. So this is the height. Now, of course, this is the height that we want. The whole thing is 10. You see that? The whole thing is 10. But we want to take this part out. So we're subtracting 10 minus 6, which gives us 4, which is right there. So that's going to be one of our that's going to be our height. So I put in the height here. And then the base 1, I used 7. And then base 2 is down here. Now, down here, again, the whole thing is 15. We don't want the whole thing, so we want to take this part out, right? We only want this part of the trapezoid. So this part of this line down here is equal to 5, just like that, okay? So we don't want that part, so we're going to take that out. So we're going to subtract 15 minus that 5, which gives us 10. So there's our second base. So now we have our substitutions. Now we can simplify. So we have 1/2 times 4 times 17. So I took half of 4, which is 2, and then multiplied that times 17, and that gave me 34 yards squared. Okay? Now, the area of the rectangle, area 2, that's an easy one. So we've got base, which is 5, times the height, which is 10. So 5 times 10 is 50. And now, to get the total, we just add the two areas together. So we have 34 plus 50. That gives us 84 yards squared. All right, example 3 is to apply what you know, okay? So it says a kitchen floor is going to be tiled. Each tile costs $3.50 per square foot. We want to know what is the cost to tile this room, okay? So the first thing we want to do here, because this is a composite figure, we want to split this up. So I am going to choose, let's see here. To split it up right here. So now we've got area 1 over here, which is a rectangle, and area 2 over here, which is a trapezoid. Okay, so the first area we have is a rectangle, so that's base times height. Now, area 1, base times height. There's the base, that's 8, and the height is 10. So this is going to be 8 times 10, which is 80, and this is feet squared. So that's area 1. Area 2 is a trapezoid. So here's our trapezoid formula. area is equal to 1/2 times the height times sum of the bases. So now we substitute in. So we've got 1/2 times the height. So here is our height, right here. The whole thing is 10. You see this one? The whole thing is 10, right? That whole thing is 10, but we don't want the whole thing. So we're going to take this piece off. That piece is 6. So when we delete 6 out of there, so that's going to be 10 minus the 6, the height is 4. So times 4. Now we have the sum of those two bases. So base 1, that's an easy one. That's 4. Okay? Plus this second base, we want this second base. Now, again, the whole thing is 14. But we don't want the whole thing. We only want this part right here. So we want to take this part out. Well, how much is that part? That part is 8, right? So we have 14 minus 8, which gives us 6. So there's our second base. And now we can simplify. So we have 1/2 times 4 times 10. Okay? So now simplify some more. I'm going to take half of 10 just to make my number smaller. Half of 10 is 5 times 4. That's going to be 20 feet squared. Okay? So the total area, so area total, that's area 1 plus area 2, that's going to be 80 plus 20, that's of course 100. So this is 100 feet squared. So, is that my final answer? No, it's not, because it says each tile costs $3.50 per square foot. So we want to know what is the cost. We want to know what is the cost to tile this room. So that means we need to get the cost, we need to multiply 100 times $3.50. So we're going to take this, I'll use, let's use purple. So we're going to take that 100 feet squared, and we're going to multiply that times $3.50. So when we do that, the cost is going to be equal to 100 times 3.50, just move the decimal, right? That's going to be $350 to tile that whole room. All right, so now I want you to take a minute or two to complete this example B. Move this up a little bit, shrink that picture a little bit so you can see it completely. All right. So, for example B, it says Mr. Morgan designed a stained glass window featuring his company logo, with the dimensions shown to be added above the front door at his office. If the stained glass costs $1.25 per square inch, how much will he spend on the window? And it says round it to the nearest hundredth if necessary. Okay, so the important information we have here is that stained glass costs $1.25 per square inch. Okay. Also, what's important here is that it's telling us to round, if necessary, round to the nearest hundredth. Now the reason, of course, that they're asking us to round to the nearest hundredth at the end is because we're talking about money. And remember, money is just two numbers behind the decimal place, which is the hundredths place. Okay? So, we want to look at this picture. And this picture is, look at it. It's all trapezoids, right? Now, let's take a look at the trapezoid, okay? This trapezoid, let's look at this one down here. That's the height. Use blue for the height. The height is 5 inches, and then the bases are 5 and 9. Now, let's take a look at this next trapezoid up here. Look at this. Oh, look. The height is 5, and the bases are 5 and 9. See that? Well, let's look at this one over here. Let me just turn this around here so you can see this. That is a trapezoid. The height is 5, and the bases, the two bases, are 5 and 9. Let's just check one more. What do you think it's going to be? What do you think is going to happen here? Yeah, look. The height is 5, and the two bases are 5 and 9. So, what do you think I can do to find the total area? The formula is for a trapezoid. So there's my trapezoid. And they're all the same. So couldn't I just find one of them and then multiply times 4? Yeah, so let's do that, okay? So here we've got 1/2 times the height, we said was 5, times the two bases. So base 1 was 5, and base 2 is 9. So now we can simplify those. So this says 1/2 times 5 times 14. All right, I'm going to take half of 14, which is 7, times 5, and this is going to give me the total area for one trapezoid. So that's going to be 35 inches squared. And again, you guys, this is for one trapezoid. So we want to take this 35 inches squared, and we want to multiply that times 4. So 35 times 4 gives us 140. So this is 140 inches squared, okay? So that's how much glass, square inches of glass we're going to use for this stained glass window, okay? But again, we want to know how much it costs. So the cost, use purple, the cost is going to be equal to the square inches, so the area, so that's 140, times the $1.25 per square inch of glass, okay? So now we just multiply those. So that's 140 times $1.25, and that's going to give us $175. And look at that, we didn't even have to round it to the nearest hundredth because it came out even. All right, so now that is the end of the lecture. So now you can do your homework, which is on in the textbook, page 295 to page 296. And you're going to do 1 through 7 all, okay? 1 through 7 all. And don't forget, you are to enter your answers online because, again, that is part of your grade, okay? So you're going to get points for your work, and you're going to get points for the score that you get in McGraw-Hill. Now remember, you also get 3 chances to get the answer correct in McGraw-Hill. So if you get it wrong, you have 2 more chances to fix your work.